Welcome to Module 2. Most research doesn't fail at the writing stage. It doesn't fail during analysis. It fails before it even begins. And the reason is simple: bad questions. If your research question is weak, your methodology becomes confused, your results become meaningless, and your paper becomes forgettable. Today, we're not just selecting a topic, we're designing the intelligence of your entire paper. Part 1. Good versus bad topics. A topic can sound intelligent and still be academically useless. Impact of social media on society. This sounds important, it sounds intellectual, but it's academically weak. 3 critical failures. 1. Cognitive vagueness. What does impact mean? Positive, negative, behavioral, psychological? 2. Scope explosion. Which social media? Which society? Which demographic? 3. Non-measurability. If you cannot measure it, you cannot prove it. Now this. Impact of daily Instagram usage on study time among urban high school students. This is not just a topic. This is a research system. Topic equals independent variable plus dependent variable plus population plus context. Part 2. Practical versus unrealistic topics. Segment. Ambition versus execution. One of the biggest mistakes advanced students make. They confuse intellectual ambition with research feasibility. The psychological evolution of human attention in the digital era. This is a PhD thesis, not a student paper. Can you collect this data? Can you measure evolution? Do you have longitudinal data? If the answer is no, it's not a research topic. It's an idea. If you cannot collect the data in 2 to 4 weeks, your topic is too ambitious. Before you fall in love with a topic, ask one brutal question. Where will my data come from? 3 safe data sources are surveys, interviews, secondary data. Strategic advice. If your goal is publication, choose simplicity over intellectual ego. Part 3. Research question design. The question is the architecture. A research question is not a sentence. It is a decision-making tool. How does X affect Y among Z? Independent variable, X. The cause, what you manipulate or observe. Dependent variable, Y. The effect, what changes. Example. How does screen time affect concentration levels among university students? A strong research question does 3 things simultaneously: defines variables, implies methodology, predicts analysis. Bad versus good RQ. What is social media? How does daily social media usage affect sleep quality among college students? Part 4. Live demonstration. Topic 1. Weak or strong. Online learning. Refine step by step. Add variable equals engagement. Add group equals high school students. Add context equals post-pandemic. Final. Impact of online learning on student engagement among high school students post-pandemic. Topic 2. Mental health. Final. Impact of academic pressure on anxiety levels among undergraduate students. Topic 3. AI in education. Final. Effect of AI-based study tools on learning efficiency among college students. At this point, you don't need more information. You need a decision. Write down your topic, your research question, your variables, X and Y. A weak topic creates confusion. A strong question creates direction. And research is nothing but direction, sustained over time. Part 6. The hidden cost of a bad topic. Let's go one level deeper. A bad topic doesn't just make your paper weak. It creates a chain reaction. First, your literature review becomes scattered. You start reading everything and understanding nothing. Second, your methodology becomes unclear. You don't know what to measure, so you measure everything. Third, your results become meaningless, because you never defined what meaningful looks like. And finally, you lose confidence, not because research is hard, but because your foundation was weak. Bad topic equals scattered thinking. Scattered thinking equals weak research. Weak research equals low confidence. Part 7. Think like a researcher. Let me ask you something. When you choose a topic, are you thinking like a student, or like a researcher? A student asks, what topic sounds interesting? A researcher asks, what question can I answer, with evidence? That is the shift. Research is not about sounding intelligent. It's about being precise. It's not about complexity. It's about clarity. And most importantly, it's not about ideas. It's about testable questions. Part 8. The simplicity advantage. Here's something most people won't tell you. Simple topics get published faster, not because they are easier, but because they are clearer. Think about it. A study measuring screen time and concentration is easier to design, easier to analyze, and easier to explain. Compare that with abstract topics, where even the researcher is confused. If your goal is publication, simplicity is not weakness, it is strategy. Part 9. Variables Deep Dive. Now let's sharpen your thinking further. Variables are not just labels, they define your entire research logic. Your independent variable is what you believe causes change. Your dependent variable is what you measure. But here's the deeper insight. Every research question is actually a hypothesis in disguise. When you ask, how does screen time affect concentration? You are already implying, screen time changes concentration. That's powerful. Part 10. Research Gap, Simplified for Students. Now let's address something important. Research is not just repeating what already exists. It is about identifying a gap. But don't overcomplicate this. A research gap can be simple. New population, new context, new variable relationship. For example, maybe many studies exist on social media, but not specifically on high school students in your region. That alone can be your gap. Part 11. Common mistakes. Let's expose some common mistakes. Mistake 1. Trying to sound too intellectual. If your topic needs explanation, it's already too complicated. Mistake 2. Choosing a topic without thinking about data. That's not research, that's guessing. Mistake 3. Changing topics again and again. Clarity doesn't come from switching, it comes from refining. Part 12. Interactive thinking exercise. Let's make this practical. I'm going to give you a topic, and I want you to refine it in your head. Topic: technology and students. First question: what specific technology? Second: what outcome? Third: which group? Now compare with this: impact of smartphone usage on academic performance among high school students. That is the difference. Part 13. Let's bring everything together. A strong topic is specific, measurable, feasible. A strong research question defines variables, guides your methodology, and predicts your analysis. If you get this right, the rest of your research becomes easier. If you get this wrong, everything becomes harder. Part 14. Causal thinking versus descriptive thinking. Let's elevate your thinking further. Not all research is equal. Some research describes, some research explains. Descriptive questions ask, what is happening? Causal questions ask, why is this happening? And more importantly, what causes change? A strong research question moves from description to causation, because causation is what creates knowledge. Part 15. Correlation versus causation. Now a critical distinction. Just because two things are related, doesn't mean one causes the other. Screen time and low grades might be correlated, but is screen time the cause? Or is it lack of discipline? Or poor study habits? This is where research becomes thinking, not just measurement. Part 16. Operationalization. Now we enter a concept most students ignore. Operationalization. It sounds complex, but it's simple. It means, how exactly will you measure your variables? Stress is not measurable, but number of hours studied per day is. Happiness is vague, but self-reported satisfaction score from 1 to 10 inches is measurable. If you cannot operationalize your variables, your research cannot exist. Abstract follows concrete, concrete follows measurable. Part 17. Think in models, not topics. Most students think in topics. Researchers think in models. A topic is a sentence. A model is a structure. It defines relationships. X affects Y, under condition Z, that is a model. And once you have a model, your research becomes predictable. Topic follows model. Model follows insight. Part 18. Limiting scope intelligently. One of the hardest skills in research is knowing what to remove. Strong researchers don't add more variables. They remove unnecessary ones. Clarity comes from limitation, not expansion. The smaller your focus, the sharper your insight. Less scope equals more clarity. Part 19. Overfitting your topic. Another advanced mistake is overfitting your topic. You try to include everything, multiple variables, multiple outcomes, multiple populations, and suddenly, your research collapses under its own weight. Simplicity is not a limitation, it is control. Too many variables equals weak design. Part 20. Think like a reviewer. Now shift your perspective. Imagine you are a reviewer. You receive a paper. First question you ask, is this question clear? Second, can this be tested? Third, does this add value? If your topic fails here, it fails in publication. Reviewer mindset. Clear, testable, valuable. Part 21. Mini case analysis. Let's analyze a real-style case. Topic: impact of smartphone usage on sleep quality among students. Now ask, is it specific? Is it measurable? Is it feasible? This is a publishable direction. Part 22. Second-level questioning. Now go one level deeper. Don't just ask one question. Ask a second-level question. Example: does usage time matter more, or type of content? This is where research becomes insightful. Part 23. Building depth without complexity. Depth does not come from complexity. It comes from sharper questions. You don't need more variables. You need better thinking. Part 24. Clarity test. Here's a simple test. If you can explain your topic in one sentence, without confusion, you are on the right path. Part 25. Language precision. Words matter. Affect vs. relationship. Usage vs. addiction. Precision in language creates precision in research. Part 26. Avoid trend trap topics. Not every trending topic is a good research topic. AI, social media, mental health. These are popular, but popularity does not equal clarity. Part 27. Personal interest versus research value. Just because you like a topic doesn't mean it's research worthy. Interest starts the process, but structure completes it. Part 28. Final refinement loop. Strong researchers refine repeatedly, not endlessly, but intentionally. Each iteration increases clarity. Part 29. Decision moment. At some point, you stop refining and you commit, because research rewards execution. Part 30. A strong topic is not impressive. It is precise. A strong research question does not try to answer everything. It answers one thing clearly, and that clarity is what creates publishable research. So as you move forward, don't chase complexity. Chase clarity. Don't chase trends. Chase structure. And most importantly, don't chase ideas. Build questions that can be answered. Because research is not about knowing more, it is about asking better. Part 31. What makes a question worth answering? Not every clear question is worth answering. That's an uncomfortable truth. You can design a perfectly structured question and still produce irrelevant research. So the real question becomes, what makes a research question valuable? There are 3 layers. First, relevance. Does this question connect to something real? Second, clarity. Can it be answered without ambiguity? Third, contribution. Does it add something, even if small? If your question satisfies all 3, you are not just doing research. You are producing knowledge. Part 32. Micro versus macro questions. Many students struggle because they think too big. They try to answer macro questions. Questions about society, systems, entire populations. But strong research often begins with micro questions. Small, focused, controlled. Because micro questions are answerable. And once answered, they build into larger understanding. Depth comes from precision. Part 33. Thinking in terms of trade-offs. Every research decision is a trade-off. Simplicity versus depth, speed versus rigor, breadth versus precision. If you try to maximize everything, you lose control. Strong researchers choose intentionally. They accept limitations to gain clarity. Part 34, Defining Boundaries. A good topic is not just defined by what it includes but also by what it excludes. Boundaries create focus, and focus creates quality. Ask yourself, what am I not studying? That question is just as important as what you are studying. Part 35, Context as a Variable. Most students treat context as background, but in research, context is powerful. Time period, location, environment, these are not details. They shape your results. Change the context, and your findings may change completely. Part 36, Precision in Population. Students is not a population. It's a category. High school students, urban students, first-year university students. These distinctions matter, because variation in population creates variation in results. Part 37, The Everything Trap. A common instinct is to include everything. More variables, more factors, more complexity, but more is not better. More is noise. Clarity comes from reduction. Part 38, Question before Method. Many students start with method. I want to do a survey. That's backwards. Method follows question, always. First define the question, then choose the method that fits. Part 39, What makes a question testable? A testable question has three properties. It defines variables, it implies data, and it allows comparison. If any of these are missing, the question collapses. Part 40, Time as a Constraint. Time is not just a limitation, it is a design parameter. A 2-week study is different from a 2-year study. Your topic must respect time. Part 41, Depth through Comparison. One way to add depth, without adding complexity, is comparison. Group A versus Group B. Before versus after. With versus without. Comparison creates insight. Part 42, Question Clarity Exercise. I want you to test yourself. Think of your current topic. Now remove unnecessary words, simplify it. If it becomes clearer, you are moving in the right direction. Part 43, Research as Decision-Making. Research is not writing, it is decision-making. Every step is a choice. Topic, variables, population, method. Better decisions lead to better research. Part 44, Intellectual Honesty. Strong research requires honesty, not about results, but about limitations. If your topic is weak, admit it early, and refine. Part 45, Iteration as a Process. Your first topic is rarely your final topic. Iteration is not failure, it is refinement. Part 46, When to Stop Refining. But there is a danger. Over-refinement. At some point you must stop thinking and start doing. Part 47, Clarity over Perfection. Your topic does not need to be perfect. It needs to be clear. Perfection delays action. Clarity enables it. Part 48, Structure creates confidence. Confidence in research does not come from intelligence. It comes from structure. Part 49, Thinking in Systems. Research is a system. Topic, question, method, data, analysis. Everything connects. Part 50. The quality of your research is determined before you begin, in the way you think. Part 51. At this point, you have enough, not more information, but more clarity. So now, the responsibility shifts to you. To choose a topic that is not just interesting but answerable. To design a question that is not just complex but meaningful. Because in the end, research is not about knowing everything. It is about asking the right thing, clearly, and following it, with discipline. Part 52, From Topic to Argument. A strong topic is not the end of thinking. It is the beginning of an argument. Every research paper makes a claim, even before you write it. When you say, screen time affects concentration, you are already taking a position. So ask yourself, what am I trying to argue? If you cannot answer that, your topic is not yet ready. Part 53, Strength of a Claim. Not all claims are equal. Weak claim. There is a relationship. Strong claim. Higher X leads to lower Y. The stronger the claim, the sharper your research becomes. Part 54, Thinking in Terms of Evidence. Every research question secretly asks, what evidence would prove this? Before you design your study, imagine the result. What would convince you? That is your evidence strategy. Part 55. Depth through explanation. Don't just measure that something happens. Try to explain why it happens. That shift transforms basic research into insightful research. Part 56. Layers of a question. A good question has layers. Surface. What is happening? Deeper. Why is it happening? Deepest. Under what conditions? The deeper you go, the more valuable your research becomes. Part 57. Multivariable thinking. Real-world problems rarely have one cause, but adding variables blindly creates confusion. The key is not more variables. It is meaningful variables. Part 58. Control variables. Sometimes, something else is influencing your result. That is a control variable. Ignoring it weakens your research. Part 59. Bias awareness. Your assumptions influence your topic. Good researchers question their own beliefs. Part 60. Thinking slowly. Fast thinking creates vague topics. Slow thinking creates clarity. By now, you've seen something important. Research is not difficult because it is complex. It is difficult because it requires clarity. And that clarity is not something most students are trained in. You're expected to choose a topic, design a question, understand methodology, analyze data, write academically, and somehow do all of that without structured guidance. That is where most students struggle. And this is exactly why Research Ramp exists, not to do the work for you, but to guide you through it. At Research Ramp, we don't believe in shortcuts. We believe in structured thinking. Which means, we help you refine your topic so it is not just interesting but publishable. We help you design your research question so it is not just clear but testable. We guide your methodology so your research is not just theoretical but executable. And we support you through writing so your work meets academic standards. If you feel ready to take that step, you can apply to work with us at Research Ramp. And we'll help you turn your idea into structured, meaningful research. Not by doing it for you, but by teaching you how to do it right.